Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and a lot of people wanted me to talk about We Bare Bears, so let's do it! We Bare Bears is a 2015 slice-of-life animated comedy featuring a bear trio's misadventures in San Francisco. The show is based off of a webcomic called The Three Bears that later had a short film that served as the pilot to the series proper. Being a slice-of-life show, there's usually no epic fight scenes, nor intense drama or musical numbers, though things like that do pop up occasionally. I would even argue that the humor isn't very prevalent, though I'll get into that later. The focus is squarely on the bears interacting with each other and the city, as well as living life in 2015. Which includes obsessing over social media, having a webcam date, and attempting to go viral. For a show about anthropomorphic bears, it's surprisingly pretty down to earth. It's still a cartoon, so the plots include giant burritos, gangster pigeons, and Bigfoot, but the parts that aren't outrageously silly are very true to how things work in real life. Like how the bears' YouTube videos don't become viral overnight, or how a character in an allergic fit is given an EpiPen. And when a character is watching TV, strangely enough, she's watching an actual Adventure Time clip. I believe this is one of the true strengths of this show, the attention to detail and willingness to toss aside cartoon cliches in favor of some more realistic and modern storytelling. So let's talk about the bears. There's Grizz, the grizzly bear, Panda, and Ice Bear, the polar bear. The three consider each other brothers, and while traveling, like to form the bear stack, where they each stack on top of each other. Grizz is the oldest and the leader of the bears. He's friendly, energetic, and enthusiastic, kinda like a dog, but don't tell him that. He jumps headfirst into every situation and is often the catalyst for stories. Panda is obsessed with his phone and social media. He has a peanut allergy, wears contacts, and comes off as a bit insecure and neurotic. He also likes to draw manga-esque art. Ice Bear is an amazing chef and skilled martial artist. He has many other talents as well. He's the quiet one, and when he does speak, he is monotone and refers to himself in the third person. Though the bears might seem like simple archetypes at a glance, they really play well off each other and feel very natural. Grizz is very protective of his brothers, Panda has confidence issues, and Ice Bear is introverted. Because so much emphasis is put on the bears themselves, whether you like the show will be 100% up to how much you like the bears. It really is all about them. And I know what you're thinking, isn't every show about the main character? Well, kind of, but I mean everything is based on these bears. The stories are character driven, and there aren't many other recurring characters on the show. You don't have to like Steven to like Steven Universe. You can like the other gems and the music and all the other stuff the show has going on. Just like how you don't need to like SpongeBob or Patrick to still laugh at a lot of the jokes on that show. In this though, it's all about the bears. Personally, I find the bears to be really charming and lovable, and of the three, I only find Panda annoying, and only every so often, with the other two being lovable all the time. In terms of my problems with Panda, he can come off as a bit lame with his dependence on social media, and having to be the killjoy in compared to Grizz's enthusiasm. It's a fine line though, because his love of his phone can come off as relatable or pathetic depending on how they write it. He's not a bad character, and most of the time he's fine. It's just certain episodes like Panda's date that make him a little bit annoying, and in general, Grizz and Ice Bear are just so awesome that by comparison, Panda looks a little bit worse. And Ice Bear in particular is beyond fantastic. It makes sense that they would make him the cool one. Just like how Garnet is my favorite gem, Ice Bear is my favorite bear. Oh, and speaking of Garnet, Estelle sings the theme song, which does a fantastic job of setting the mood for the show. It's such a cute little song, and that's honestly how I would describe the show. It's very adorable. In terms of the art on the show, it's incredibly average. It looks perfectly fine, but it's nothing unique or stylized. If you showed me a frame without the bears or any of the recurring cast, I don't think I could tell you what show it's from. Though I like how the bears look, even that is average. Grizz looks a lot like the bear from Adventure Time, and it follows the whole super basic character design trend that's been popping up a lot lately. Honestly though, this all fits back in with the fact that the show is pretty realistic. Realism means the human characters look fairly normal. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but the art doesn't make it stand out in any way. It doesn't draw you in or surprise you. It does its job and is never distracting. One nitpick I have though is with Panda's eyes. He has spots around them like panda bears do that are dark gray, but his pupils are still black. And it might just be my poor eyesight, but sometimes his pupils are a little hard to differentiate from the spots. I feel like a lighter shade of gray for the spots would have worked better, though it's really not a big deal, and it's only ever a problem with the wide shots where he's far away from the camera. One nice thing I could say about the design is the fact that all three bears physically look slightly different. And I'm not talking about the color, I'm talking about stature. Ice Bear is a little bit taller than his brothers and a little bit slimmer, Panda is a little bit chubbier and a little bit shorter, and Grizz is somewhere in the middle. True to everything else about the show, the humor is relatively subdued. It's not a very in-your-face jokey kind of show where there's tons of jokes per minute. It's much more relaxed and, I keep using this word, but there's not really a better one, realistic than that. Most of the humor comes from real-life awkwardness, from little things like taking too many napkins out of the dispenser and not knowing what to do with them, to characters getting embarrassed up on a stage or on a date. The former kind of jokes about little things work very well because of how relatable they are. At least to me, I'm a pretty awkward person, and many people are. It's amusing to see these bears make silly mistakes and happily try to play them off. The latter kind of humor, about being on stage or being on a date, is hit or miss. And by that I mean you're either going to find it very funny or very cringy. A lot of people don't like that kind of comedy where you're embarrassed for the character. A lot of the time on this show I think it works and is really funny, especially because the bears are really cute, and it's a very lighthearted, happy kind of show. But at the same time, there are moments that I really don't like. In episodes like Panda's Date, where a character does something and it's just awkward in the uncomfortable kind of way. So, being a slice of life show, most of the stories here are simply about the day-to-day life of the bears. At its heart, the show is about three bears trying to get by in society despite the fact that they are different. And while there has yet to be an episode about people harshly discriminating against them for simply being bears, there's an undeniable rift between the bears and the rest of society. They don't have many human friends, and people seem pretty indifferent to them. Whether this is because they are bears or because of their personalities is yet to be seen. I suppose I should also mention that the laws of this world are thus far kind of vague. Aside from the bears, Bigfoot, and a certain koala, the animals on this show cannot talk, although some exhibit human-like behaviors. It's strange, but it kind of fits, seeing how the show likes to blur the lines between the outrageously silly and the super down-to-earth. I should also point out that there is a little bit of continuity here and there, particularly in filling in the backstories of the bears. There's also a little bit of foreshadowing in the episode Everyday Bears, and we have character introductions for the three main recurring characters, Charlie, Nom Nom, and Chloe. At the same time though, it is very episodic and easy to jump into, but I wouldn't be surprised if at some point later on down the road, they carried some things over from one episode to the next. It's also interesting to note that two episodes that take place with the bears as cubs don't have any sort of framing device. We're just kind of thrown into these stories of them being cubs. It's a very interesting way to tell those stories. It trims out any sort of fat of characters having to talk about what was going to happen to set everything up, and it also provides a little bit of mystery of at what point in the bears' lives we're at. Now, with the show being as topical as it is, I have to ask the question, is this going to be dated in a few years down the line? And the answer to that is maybe. It's really hard to tell, but I do think that the show has something here. It is something special. It's not just trying to cheaply imitate what is currently relevant with children. It's really trying to tell a story and really trying to get it right. A lot of the stuff they talk about in the show isn't stuff that's very specific to what's going on literally right now, as much as it is specific to stuff that's been going on in the past few years. Much like something like Rocko's Modern Life is very 90s, but we still enjoy it, we might look back at We Bare Bears and say, wow, that show was very 2010s, but still take away something. Instead of it becoming a show that's super modern, it'll become its own interesting period piece in a way. Though, of course, this is just me speculating. In conclusion, the bears themselves pretty much make or break this show and every episode in it. In some episodes, they play amazingly well off of each other, making whatever situation they're in a blast to watch, but occasionally that magic just isn't there, such as in an episode like Charlie and the Snake, where the bears take a backseat to Charlie and things get very dull very fast. Or other episodes where their dynamic just isn't interesting enough to carry the story, making these episodes not ones I would recommend coming back to. I wouldn't say there's very many bad episodes, but there are some that are way less interesting than others. And ironically, I think the very first episode isn't a very good introduction to these characters, or a very interesting story in and of itself. And for that reason, I think if you do decide to check out this show, it wouldn't hurt to start at maybe the second, third, or fourth episodes. Or start with whatever episode you like if you don't care that much about going in order. As it stands, I think We Bare Bears is a very charming, though occasionally dull and slightly generic show. It has shades of greatness in some episodes, but it remains to be seen whether this is going to be the norm going forward, or if it will just be something that pops up every now and then. If the show really embraces episodes like Burrito, it could very well be on the path to greatness. But even if it doesn't, I do still think it's a show worth at least checking out once or twice. It's very easy to get attached to these bears and want to come back for more, even if there isn't too much else going on in the show. Though of course, I will say, as a slice of life show, it is going to be slower than a lot of other cartoons on right now, and if that isn't your sort of thing, this show isn't necessarily going to sell you on that style. As of this review, there's only 20-ish episodes, so it still has a lot more episodes in season 1, and hopefully we'll get other seasons to perhaps tighten up some of the slightly looser aspects of the show and really make a name for itself on Cartoon Network. I think the show has a lot of potential, and I really hope it embraces it. I enjoy watching the show, and I'm excited to see where it goes next. It may not be perfect or must-see TV, but if anything I've said here sounds interesting to you, I really do recommend checking it out. PIEGUYRULZ, out.